Hey friends, welcome back. This is Ashley with Uncommon Roots Homestead, and today I am actually planting the garden. I'm going to be getting my asparagus in the ground, a lot of my tomatoes. I brought over almost all of my starts, so if I have time, I'm going to get them in the ground. I'm going to get my sweet potato slips in the ground, and I want to talk about what to do when your onions start trying to bloom. Let's do it. All right, so before I get into it, I want to water everything that I planted last time we were together. We are back in town, and yeah, we got rain a couple of days, so I'm not too worried about it, but I just want to make sure to give everything a little bit more water. But look at this. So these are my onions. I already popped some off, but these are my onions that I planted back in the fall. So we're here in zone 7A, which basically means it doesn't get below 0 here, temperature wise. So I can actually overwinter onions, and then they just grow a little bit more rapidly in the spring. So you can see a lot of my onions here. Let me turn you. You can see a lot of my onions are actually making really good bulbs. This is obviously a double, but the singles in there are starting to bulb up as well. I need to go ahead and spoon around them all so that they bulb even better, which just means I'm gonna wipe away the dirt around them to help them grow. But because these overwintered and then it's gotten so warm, a lot of them are trying to flower. So what I'm gonna do is just literally rip that, let's see if it'll focus. I'm gonna rip that flower off and then just toss it. So the reason I'm going to do that, you can let it flower. They're still going to have bulbs, but the plant is taking all of that energy that you want it to be putting towards the bulb and putting it towards a flower, which they're beautiful. If you want to let them flower and you don't care how big your onions are, go ahead and do that. But I would rather have bigger onions, so I'm going to go ahead and rip all of those off and toss them. Unlike garlic scapes, I've never heard of anyone eating. So unlike garlic scapes, I've never heard of anyone eating them, so I just rip them off and toss them. No harm, no foul. You can, like I said, you can leave them, but then you're not gonna get as large of onions, so I go ahead and just pull them off. But with garlic scapes, it's a little bit different. You can actually eat those. So you harvest those pods before they open, and you can make garlic scape pesto and things like that. I want to say only soft neck varieties actually put up scapes. Hard necks don't. I might have that reversed, but anyways, that's what I do with my onions. So let me go ahead and water all of those seeds we planted. All right, before I start actually putting everything down into the beds, I want to show you where we're actually going to put the sweet potatoes. So we're moving some things around. We were originally just going to put the melons and squash over here in this in-ground bed, and then we were going to do the potatoes and sweet potatoes actually like up in this area. That obviously isn't ready yet, and the sweet potato slips are here and need to go in the ground. So what we're going to do is put melons and squash up there and then put the sweet potatoes here. We're going to continue it down to there and then do a second row like right there. And then I'll probably just move a couple, I'll put some squash and melon over here and then some on the other side too. So that's what we're doing. The other adjustment that we're making is the asparagus. So originally I have these 3 6x6 foot beds, and I was going to put asparagus in those. But after doing a little bit more research and kind of looking at how I need to plant them, I think that my better bet is to actually put them in the 24-foot bed, because I can actually fit like 48 asparagus crowns in one of the 24-foot beds. Whereas if I'm trying to space it in a 6-foot bed, I'm just not gonna have as much room. So that's what I'm gonna do. And like, it's not gonna be as accessible. I can't reach the middle of the 6-foot bed without stepping into it. And I don't really wanna step on the asparagus bed. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and get those in now. With asparagus, you want to soak your crowns. If you're ordering crowns online and not starting from seed, you actually soak them. So I've had them soaking in water for about an hour. And so now what I'm gonna do is prep the beds and actually get them planted. We're a little late on this, but I was at the mercy of, where I ordered them from. So they just came in, so we're gonna get them in the ground. Okay, but before I do that, look how great this bed looks. My spinach is delicious. We've been munching on that. The lettuce looks great. I'm actually gonna bring a container and harvest some of that as baby lettuce tomorrow. My beets are looking pretty good. Some of them got dug up by probably the cat, which is okay, kind of annoying, but okay. And then I've got some butter crunch lettuce. Those are starting to head up nicely. That one was eaten down, so I replanted it. You can see it right there, and then it came back. So I guess I'm gonna probably move that little guy in the next couple days. I have some golden beets here, and then I have some Merlot lettuce on the end. So all of this is looking wonderful. And then over here, I've got all of those brassicas, and they're looking great too. The cabbage is growing really nicely. The cauliflower, broccoli, all looks great. This is red orchid spinach, which looks delicious. And then all of these ones are a little bit punier, but I think they'll come back. So that's what we've got going on here. Okay, so I want to take a second and talk about how I am going to be planting my tomatoes this year. So I've got all of my tomatoes out. So the first thing I do when I'm bringing starts outside is you have to harden them off. So for the last week or so, I've been bringing these starts outside during the day. I started with just a couple hours, and then I went to the entire day, and then bringing them back inside at night just because the temperature fluctuates so much this time of year in our zone. But they've been hardened off for about a week, and the weather looks great. The forecast is wonderful. We're past our final frost, but like I said earlier, that doesn't always matter. So I'm gonna go ahead and plant these tomatoes today. So what I did is I brought all of my tomatoes out here in the garden. I referenced my plan earlier to make sure that I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to put everything originally. And then I know how many I can fit in each of these beds. So in the 6-foot beds, I'll put 6 plants. So I will do 3 on each side and then trellis in the middle. And then usually I'll plant something around them like zinnias or flowers, or I have some different flowers already planted here that I transplanted earlier. So the first thing I did was set all of those starts in the places that I'm gonna plant them. That just helps me kind of get a visual of how much space I have, how much free space I'm gonna have after I plant, and then go from there. The other thing that I'm gonna try for the first time this year, I've seen a lot of other gardeners do this, so I wanted to give it a try. I'm going to crack an egg and put it in the bottom of each hole for the tomatoes that I'm planting. Now, luckily, we have chickens here, so all I did was run down to the coop, collected the eggs from today. I got about a dozen, so I'll be able to do that with 12 of these plants. I'll need to go grab more eggs to do it with the rest. But for me, it might kind of feel like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna waste these eggs? But it's really not a waste. It's more or less an investment in the tomatoes that are to come. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and get these tomatoes all in the ground. And then after that, I'm gonna go over and plant the sweet potato slips. All right, so I wanted to take a second and just talk about one other thing that I did while planting these. You'll see that these look really small now. They actually weren't that small as transplants. They were probably 8 to 9 inches tall, I dig a really deep hole and then plant a significant portion of the tomato down into the hole. The reason you do that is that tomatoes, you'll notice if you let them just go, they kind of vine across the ground and they grow roots anywhere that their stem touches the dirt. Well, that builds a great root system, but we don't actually want them to grow across the ground and set roots everywhere. We wouldn't get as much fruit. It would be eaten by bugs, things like that. So because we grow tomatoes to consume them, we're going to kind of alter nature by trellising them up, tying them up, keeping them off the ground. So what I want to do is give them as much root surface as possible. So I plant a significant portion down into the ground. This is a sign of a day well spent. Lamb is losing it, but got the ground cherries in. They're super tiny. So ground cherries always have a really slow start for me. I have a hard time with germination, and they're always really small when I transplant them, but they always survive and take off. So I have high hopes, even though these are super tiny. They do have a set of true leaves. So I went ahead and transplanted them. I'm going to keep them really moist. I'm going to mulch good around them and cross my fingers because we love ground cherries. These are just the regular ground cherry variety from Baker Creek. I also have Aunt Molly's, but I never got them to germinate. So I don't know. So, woo, big bumblebee. While I am sitting here covering up my asparagus that I planted correctly the second time around, just for the record, when you get an asparagus crown, it looks like this. I had originally laid them all flat, just thinking it'll grow up. That is not how you plant asparagus. You want to kind of separate it out and plant it like this and allow it to grow up. So, the more you know. But while I am sitting here mounding up over this asparagus and making sure it's covered, nice and covered with about 2 inches of soil, I wanted to talk a little bit about why we plant so much, right? We have a family of 4. We don't necessarily need, the 2,600 square feet of garden space that we are creating here. Nor do we need 30 chickens for eggs every day. But one of the things that we want to be able to do in building our homestead is support others who have a need. So not everybody has the time or the space or the capacity or the opportunity to grow a whole garden of vegetables. And I don't ever want to get to a place in my life that I am ignorant to that, right? I want to always appreciate that what I have is a gift, and it is something that I want to be able to let flow through my dirty garden hands and share with the people around us who need it more than we do. So our goal in creating excess is, first and foremost, sustain our family, feed our family, but then to be able to give to other people and to bless other people with what we've been blessed with, and to be able to do so without a second thought, just to be able to give because we have the opportunity to give. And that's why we grow in excess, because we've been given excess to give to others. And that's my hope. And I hope that that's never, lost and never forgotten, because there is so much that we have an opportunity to share. And I think often the first kind of foot in the door is with the other gifts that we've been given. So that's why we do this. That's why we have such a big garden space. Yes, I love it. I would, I will live here. But beyond that, it's more than that. It is an opportunity to give back and bless others and help sustain others and give them an opportunity to live a better, healthier lifestyle. And that's what we're here for. So, whew. The one thing about working full-time and then gardening after work is that it's 7 o'clock. I've been out here for a couple hours and I'm tired. But it's got to get done. I want to get it done. These sweet potato slips definitely have to get into the ground. Kevin did go ahead and finish me 2 rows here. So you can kind of start to get a vision of what this is going to look like, this area. We're going to continue the rows all the way over. These 2 are going to be sweet potato, and then we'll transition to squash and melons. And then we'll have all of my other potatoes over here and any of the other squash and melons that we have. I actually think I'm going to give that 6-foot bed to like cucumbers or something as well. And I'll just put a trellis up over it. We're getting there. We are definitely getting there. But gardening is hard work. I'm going to knock this out right now. All right, friends. Well, testament of a successful day in the garden. I'm going to be back out here and I'll do a full garden tour and show you everything that's going on. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and water all of this in and call it a night. Thank you for joining me again in the garden. Until next time.